I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Back on this rap-ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't missing my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own, tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues. Guess if you ain't at the table, you on the menu. And I'm that spitter, baby, they don't want you to see, but everybody's south of Capitol Hill's rocking with me. Boys smoke the trays and ponder getting their life together. I'm comfortable with my role, so I'm like, whatever. Me, I ain't got a job, but I work hard. And you don't work hard, but you got a job. The irony is I'm judged while you feel the applause. I'm slept on, that's why I had to set this alarm. My dudes is armed, I'm armed with this arm charm. Body banging like she got that cream from Barry Bonds. Yeah,
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
That Dre season is here, a real hitter with a mic, I'm everything that they fear. With that hood ain't the same, I was all on their ass, I'm level-headed. So yo, my dudes love when I spaz, and I'm so over Seattle's passive-aggressive attitude. They don't call you back, what they really saying is F you. While I'm from the same place, I move at a different pace. I prefer if you just said it to my face, damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it
I hate
for
these
us.
average dudes with they average spit, writing average rhymes, knocking average chicks. The closer I get, I can feel the people starting to shift. I'm loyal to a fault, and everybody can't come with. Rap's a rich man's game, I'm only playing with change. They bang models and singers, I'm knocking my old flame, I'm different. The crowd, I move with the chosen few. Black thoughts, I could be the front man for the roots. No diamonds and gold, I'm on my sticks and stones. If we can see your panty line, you should have on a thong. My team is strong, through this fire we forged a bond. And they already know what it is when I get on. To the hearse, party like it's December 31st. When I'm on my deathbed, I probably cracking my nurse. You ain't got the bars to compete, I'm a verbal athlete. Deflating these boys so they say that I cheat. Damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Yeah. I should probably start by apologizing for the long wait, man. You know, I know I be tripping. But I'm not just a rapper, I'm an artist. And, you know, my creative process is a little bit different than most. Nonetheless, I want to welcome everybody out to the Dre's Experience. I got TCF in the building. My whole camp's here with me. I got the band in here laying this cool-ass vibe. And I'm Seattle's own. Let's get into it.
Well, grand rising and good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. I am your co-host, Trey Holiday. Want to welcome you to a wonderful Wednesday as we see that sun percolating out there, kind of shining through some of those clouds. Always sunny days here in the Black Media Matter Studios. And I want to send a special shout out to All in the Zone teas. We're celebrating here. You know, Black health also matters. So I got to do this with my co-host, Big O. What up, Big O?
First of all, Trey Holiday, you are the sunshine.
Hey.
I like figuratively and literally, like, you know what I'm saying? Right up here today. That's a dope shirt, too. Black health does matter. And, you know, looking at that, I think that well, one, you know, I shared this with our audience earlier this year. Like, I finally got real health insurance, like this year, so I'm like really going to the doctor and everything else. And you find out, right, that when I didn't have health insurance or the most basic health insurance, man, there's a lot of stuff that was either misdiagnosed or not caught because of cost. So like I suffered an injury in 2020, and because an ultrasound cost too much, they never diagnosed it. They told me to go, and do something else. But that was because I didn't have proper insurance, right? And now that I got like proper insurance, like I'm everywhere. This, man, the Black health matters physically and also mentally. And that's where it's catching us, man.
Absolutely. This is why we got to really be appreciative for services and organizations out there that are intentional to provide free therapeutic services to Black community members. Shout out to Washington Therapy Fund, our girl, Ashley McGirt, everything that they're doing over there. When you look at the reports of all of the people that they've been able to help, it's phenomenal, man. And it's definitely necessary, yo.
Yeah, Washington Therapy Fund and other organizations that are out there reaching out in the community. I think that we face two obstacles or hurdles in our community. Is one, just access to culturally relevant therapists and therapy, and then two, being a Black man, the stigma around a therapy and therapist. And also, I want to uplift Ashley McGirt and the work that she's doing and other Black therapists that are out there. And I think it's important as well because, in our community, we got a lot of people who, man, are well-intending and wanting to work on healing each other, right? And I would say that one thing in talking with Ashley is that it's important in community that when we're talking to people, right, whether they've got the alphabet soup behind their name or whether or not, that the people that we're talking to, yeah, anybody can tear off the scars, but you know what I'm saying? Can they help you heal? And that's why we're always cautious here on the Morning Update Show. It's a lot of people who suffered a lot of loss. And the one thing I always talk to them about is like, man, I'm skilled. My skill is asking you questions, and asking those questions might tear those scars off. And the scabs will hold us in, but I don't have the skills to put you back together. And so it's a lot of people who's like, man, I'd love for you to come on and talk to, but I feel responsible. If you come here and you're in a vulnerable space in front of everybody here, and we don't have the toolkit to help put you back together. So that's one thing that we're working on here in the Morning Update Show. It's a lot of people who want to share really their life experience, but we want to make sure that when they come on the show here, they're not leaving worse than when they came.
I think it's so important, and not enough media outlets even think about that. So that really is a testament to how Converge Media is so embedded in the community, because we're part of the community and we care that much. I agree, that, particularly when we have had people come on, it's been because they really are like, nah, I need to share this. But you are so right to be thinking about how do we ensure that we're connected to services on the other side, because it is important for our people in our community. And also, we talk about this often, breaking that stigma of, needing that kind of help.
Right. And that, it has an impact on us as well.
Absolutely.
It's been more than a few tears shed in here over the years between me and you, and just interacting with some of our guests and what goes on here in the community. And so, who did you say made this shirt?
Yeah, this right here is All in the Zone. You guys can find them at allinthezone.com. Our guy, Elijah L. Lewis, man, doing it big. So,
well, I was going to say, well, that's good stuff with Elijah, because that shirt, imagine if you didn't wear that shirt this morning, we wouldn't have this conversation. And so, it's more than just words on a shirt. Like, it sparked a conversation that's hopefully meaningful to our audience.
Absolutely.
Man, we got a great show lined up today. We got the Dr. Dwane Chappelle. He's director over there. There he is. Look at that great photo. You know what I'm saying? Not too bad for somebody who used to hang out at Rainier Beach. The director's in the building here, man. They got investment coming to community, so we're going to talk more about that. Mike Davis is on, man. He's in the mix, so we might get Mike in, we might not. He just hit us, so there's Mike right there. We'll play that by ear. Brian's not joining us live today, but he did send us something. It's lots of conversation there at City Hall. It was in committee yesterday, the police incentives and everything else. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. He sent over a clip. Ready to go?
Oh, yeah. Let's do it.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. Want to remind you that right now is the perfect time for you to tag and share the stream. Go ahead and tag and share the stream with people you feel would appreciate culturally relevant news and information emanating from right here in the Emerald City. Want to give a big shout out to our partners, KBCS 91.3 over at Bellevue College, and also the South Seattle Emerald. You can listen to the Morning Update Show anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast. Putting the link to SoundCloud there in the comments, but you can also go to Google, Spotify, iTunes. All you have to do is search Converge Media Network. time in the show right now, talk about hereforuswa.org. Culturally curated information for those who have questions and concerns about, man, COVID, like COVID, the story. We're really, inflation is like the story at the moment. You know what I'm saying? You know when they talk about when they talked about COVID, they were talking about people having pre-existing conditions. You know what I'm saying? So now it's COVID and inflation. But man, you know, lots of resources, especially, you know, people in our community who you know, who are vaccine hesitant, and I can't really blame them when you really see how this thing is on. If you're sitting there from the sideline, you know, watching all this stuff, it'll make your head spin.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been a whirlwind of information since the beginning. And, you know, we always talk about that. There were so many resources flooding the community. People didn't really know how to disseminate all the information. And so that's what started the morning update show. But it's so interesting because here we are years later now, and these same concerns are still floating in the community. So I'm really grateful to hereforuswa.org. Please check out this resource if you still have questions, you know, that you want answered. But also, if you're just trying to hear from different people that look like you and hear their stories around maybe why they got vaccinated or why they were hesitant, I think it's really important to really have that genuine opportunity to hear from others.
Yeah, no, for sure. Big shout out as well. Public Health, Seattle, King County. I talked to them the other day, and we're actually putting together some graphics and things like that to really talk about where the situation is at here in King County. So we're following up. Last night, let me tell you the truth with proof. This brother, Proof in the play, is thriving in his purpose. Like, we talk about that, but he is thriving in his purpose. And it took us a while. You know, everything mama says, I ain't said a mama says in a while. Mama says that there's a time and a place for everything. And, you know, everything has its season. And Proof in the play is blossoming. And his show is awesome. And his guests are amazing. And Salman, you was here last night. Vaughn was here too. How was the food? Look, you see that big old smile over there on Vaughn.
Yeah.
So they over here eating and great conversation, everything else. I tapped in afterwards. I was at the Grammy thing last night at Mopop. So I watched the show on replay. And Romel Witherspoon, who's the head women's basketball coach over at Bellevue High School. I think he went to Rainier Beach. Yeah, he went to look at Director Chappelle. He did.
Proud, yeah.
Yeah, no, he played on a few championship teams there, back to back to back. Man, Coach said something last night. I was kind of laying in bed and I watched it. He said something last night that made me just stand up. And I mean, it really spoke to me, and I wanted to share this with the audience. And what I took out of this was that durability is greater than ability. Durability is greater than ability. And man, you can't quit. You have to see it through.
Y'all can see somebody go to LA Fitness right now and burn the whole gym up. But as soon as they get under the whistle, everything changes. They're passive. The coach start yelling. They're in their own way. All of a sudden, you're like, yo, he under delivering. He's not performing because his mind is in handcuffs. So and this is the conversation that I think every coach should have, at least that I have with myself. If I put a player on the floor and that player doesn't produce, how much of it is that player's inability to produce and how much of it is my inability to teach? Okay. Like, how do I blame that kid over and over and over if I'm unconditionally going to deposit in you? That means I can't condition it based on your productivity, because some things in life you got to learn on the job. So I don't coach mistakes, nor do I coach players. I coach people. So I'm the type of dude that'll call a timeout and we'll be down 30. And I'm like, you got two choices right now. You could fold. I see your family over there and I see you panicking. I see you about to unravel. Or you could train your mind right now to finish all the way through, because in life, sometimes it's the first one to quit. It's not about who's better. It's not about who's stronger. It's not about who's faster. Everybody's tired. That's how I know Proof durability is greater than ability. Yeah. So that's going to be my mantra. That's going to be my philosophy. Who doesn't want to be a part of something like that? And all of a sudden, fatigue means less and less because your mind is one track focused on the common goal.
I love this message 100%. And I'll tell you, my son has been, having that kind of durability of the mind, so to speak. But even for him, it was like, man, do I really want to do this? He's been in that mindset of really assessing, as he's about to be a junior, what his next move is. I really appreciate this message because I think we can all take something from this. I think about this in my personal life. And right now we're in a cycle of hyper focus in terms of like the seasons and the planet. And I love this message at this time, because so many of us need to hear this, whether you're a young person or adult or an elder. This is still something that I think applies to us all, man. Perfect message.
Yo, durability is greater than ability. And we here because we show it every day, irregardless, and we're here today, and we aspire, like our aspirations are big, but I never forget that it's the durability of when I was telling somebody the other day that can converge. We always envisioned video from day one, but we couldn't afford no cameras. So it started with pen on paper, blogging, it's the durability of it. You write a blog post, you might get, 6 views, write another one. Then you write something, somebody else picks it up. Oh, okay. You know what I'm saying? It inspires you. Keep writing another one. Keep working. Say, still can't get a camera. Well, man, I can re-up my phone and get a camera phone. Well, that's going to be, that's how, man, durability. And so it just really resonates with me because that's like our story here at Converge. It wasn't an angel investor or this and that, or some mega grant or anything. It's just people's willingness and want to show up every day. And it's just the durability. There's so many other media companies, big and small, that got way more resources than us and everything else. And I think what separates us is our durability and our commitment to be here every day.
It's so true. I mean, we all experience that here at the Converge team. It is, for me, there's this driving force of the necessity to center Black voices in narrative, in storytelling. And also, as I said before, because we are actually in the community, we know the amazing brilliance that's happening all around us. We're included in it. We're invited to it. We get to join in. We collaborate with it. The idea that we understand that and that we know, for me, this has to have that level of focus in terms of really centering Black voice. This is why I love us having Black Media Matters right here in the building, because it is so true. And you hear it from people outside all the time about how much they appreciate us centering voices that are not centered in any other media happening right here in Washington State, maybe throughout the Pacific Northwest. We keep hearing it as we go travel all over the country and outside of the country. There's something unique about how we center Black voices, and it is so necessary. I love that.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything, there's definitely nothing wrong, and it's everything right in saying that this is a space that centers Black voices.
Yeah.
Period. Just like the period up there. Yeah. Black Media Matters, period. And in doing so, though, the benefit to the larger community is that a lot of issues that impact Black people, then when we're centering around it, they're also impactful for other communities. And that's where people find value. Director Chappelle is sitting here today in the Black Media Matters studio because we're talking about things, the programs that they're rolling out there. But what the programs you're talking about also benefits the municipality as a whole. So people should realize that centering around Black voices, a lot of people get benefit out of that. Is, you know what I'm saying? Well beyond our community.
Absolutely. Oh, you're 100% right. And for me, that's exactly why I think people outside of the Black community tune in to Converge, because they understand, like, man, I wouldn't know about any of this if I wasn't watching Converge. It wouldn't be centered anywhere else. It's not being featured anywhere else. And it's so true. So I really appreciate that you said that, because it's not just for a Black community, just because we're centering Black voices. A lot of people are benefiting from all of the amazing stories and the inspiration of our guests that we bring right here onto Converge. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah, no, it's dope. That yellow's popping. I'm restricted with my color wave though. You know what I'm saying? There's a few colors. I wore pink one time like 3 years ago. I got lots of compliments. You know what I'm saying? Yellow it'd be a stretch for me.
Hey, it look good on your skin tone. Try it.
Well, almost everything does. All right. Hey, look, we're gonna take a break. When we come back, there he is, Dr. Dwane Chappelle, big dog over there at DEEL. And we talking about some investment in community. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
As a non-binary Black femme, a lot of my identity is rooted in body. Once the vaccine was introduced, it was really difficult to think in terms of safety as well as autonomy. As a Black American, the relationship with government is very complicated. It's hard to trust. A lot of these conspiracies are really impacting people making a decision, especially with Black folks, to be clear about what we're doing. I think it's just a well-rounded conversation to see what's best for us.
Hey there, it's Trey Holiday. And of course, Besa and I had to take a trip back to Market Street Shoes to grab some items. They always know what to show us. And let me tell you, we both spent quality time to be sure we collected some amazing additions to our wardrobes. They have some of the most unique bags, shoes, and accessories. I mean, the whole shebang. It's always a good time when I get to shop with my girl Besa. Make sure you go check out Market Street Shoes, y'all, and you too can walk out with some dope gear.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. It's my pleasure, and I say that sincerely. It's my pleasure to welcome back to the Black Media Matters Studios, Dr. Dwane Chappelle.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. As always, it's always an honor to be here.
Yeah, no, you always bring a good vibe in here, and it's something that's near and dear to us at Converge, man, and that's education, especially early learning and investment in our young people and everything else. So, and I told you guys before, anytime you got news and information to get out that's impactful for these young people, these students, these kids in this city, man, this door is always open.
Yes, you have said that, and I appreciate you opening the doors for us, because just listening to what you were just mentioning a moment ago is just so inspirational. And I want to make sure, as long as I know this title, the Director of Education and Early Learning, is I'm in this role and I have an opportunity to influence our kids, our families, and community. That's what it's about. And I'm going to definitely leverage your expertise to get the word out.
All right, good stuff. So just for people who don't know, you can quickly tell everybody what DEEL does.
Yeah, so the Department of Education and Early Learning, we basically we oversee all of the early learning through birth, through post-secondary investments for the city of Seattle. We have 4 goals: making sure students are kindergarten ready. Once they enter kindergarten, we want to make sure that when students are in high school, that they're going to graduate and be college and career ready. We want to make sure that when they graduate from high school, that they're going to obtain some type of post-secondary degree or certificate. And at the end, we want to make sure that our students are healthy and successful as they're progressing through. So that's ultimately the high-level overview of what we do at DEEL.
Yeah, DEEL is dope. We've been, man. I'll say this, and we'll jump into this stuff. Is because from day one, like you can go back years now, we've been talking about educational gap and the gap, especially with Black children in Seattle public schools. And I think that there's always a conversation, and then there's the action side of it. And so a lot of people, they don't really know about DEEL too much unless DEEL pops up on the radar. But you guys have been consistently working behind the scenes with so many different partnerships, Seattle Public Schools, with Seattle colleges, with early learning providers, with daycare providers, and everything. It's almost like a holistic approach that's behind the scene. And we know that it takes years to see results on things. You know, the education process, it isn't like a snap of a finger or even the fix of a bridge. You know, it takes years, but it's just good to know that y'all been so invested in this process.
Yes, that's and what you just mentioned is invested in the process, but you also just mentioned the collaboration it takes to make sure that our scholars are going to be successful. You just mentioned Seattle Public Schools, our preschool providers, the Seattle colleges, our community. We all know that being a parent, we're the first educators from the beginning, from the jump. But it takes that collective effort just to make sure that our scholars are going to be successful. And that's pretty much why I'm here today, because of a couple of things we have going on.
Right. And so we got the why we called you. You know what I'm saying? Why we called you? We got this this press release from Sage a while ago. Well, not too far long ago. I think some days ago, and it says the DEEL announces up to $1.5 million in grant funding for cultural education and leadership opportunities, supporting historically underserved youth. So why don't you tell us all about it, and then we'll talk about the two different programs.
Absolutely, yes. So right now we do have the culturally responsive, culturally education RFI that's out right now. And what it does, it'll allow community-based organizations up to $150,000 to be awarded to implement some culturally responsive programming throughout the city. And just again, as you was mentioning earlier, just talking about your journey and how you and Trey have been here, have been this outlet. That's something what we want to make sure that these dollars are going to be doing is giving community-based organizations opportunities to affirm our young scholars' identity, affirm their culture, and have them learn ways to be successful at the end of the day, because we know that our students, specifically our students of color, BIPOC students, need to see themselves being successful, and they need to see others that are doing what they aspire to do in the work. And this funding actually came from back in 2020, the Equity Communities Initiative. A group of community members, BIPOC community members, basically wanted to create or continue some culturally relevant investments that's happening. So that's how we actually got here to these funds today. And that's what that one is about.
Right. And so this is grant, this is up to $150,000 for organizations that you said they can reaffirm. Run it through that one more time.
Absolutely. It's culture building, affirming folks' identity,
Right.
and ultimately basically closing race-based opportunity gaps and allowing certain type of programming that's culturally relevant for our scholars to participate in multiple enriching activities. I'll even give you a couple for an example. We have REWA, Refugee Women's Alliance. They're doing a lot of culturally responsive programming. They even have some STEM programming there where they took their young scholars to flight school and allowed them to learn about doing flight in there. And this is an organization that's serving our students that are English language learners. And so that's just an example. We also have some mentoring, like in Seattle Public Schools around the Kingmakers, focusing on young Black males. So we just want to make sure that it's more, culturally relevant to our community.
When you mention Kingmakers, it reminds me of how many times we've talked to you, because we talked to you about Kingmakers. So that's the youth leadership and cultural education. Can you put that slide up? Yep. So there that is right there. And Salman's going to put that link in the comments. We got some, and that link will take you right there to the DEEL webpage there in the city. And I wanted to say this is that you're right when you talk about it's like culturally responsive, is that man, everybody learns differently, right? And I think that if we could acknowledge that, then a lot of these things would just be like normal, that everybody learned, because, it's just the lived experience of it. And we have a population here in Seattle that might have might come from an affluent neighborhood that has an unabridged learning experience generationally. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they've lived in the same home in the same neighborhood and everything else, and their experiences and their opportunities to access. And that's dope, because that's their journey. But there's other students here in the city of Seattle, young people, man, whose journey has been different, and they also learn a bit different. We might have some of our young people that have grown up in a home with their elders, and there ain't really been internet and everything else, but it's been so much oral history. You know what I'm saying? And so they learn through this, through conversation. We have other young people where it's like, man, we got to take them out their comfort zone, because seeing is believing, right? Somebody else might grow up in the neighborhood knowing, like, yeah, man, I could be a pilot. I have an uncle who's a pilot, or, you know what I'm saying? I had so-and-so who was in the Air Force. And we got kids who could never imagine that until they sit there in a cockpit on Boeing Field or something. So being able to create opportunities of tapping into how different people learn is important.
You're absolutely right. And that's part of like our second investment that you just mentioned. I think it's a good segue, because our second investment that we have out is around educator diversity. And what you were just talking about, those experiences, right? There's research that out there that says for Black students that if from the age of kindergarten to third grade, if a Black student sees a Black teacher or a teacher that looks like them, they're 13% more likely to graduate from school on time if they see more than that. If they see two, they're like almost 30% more likely to not only to graduate from high school, but attend college. And that's pretty much what our second investment is. It's around educator diversity. We know that in the state of Washington, and this is data from the state of Washington Department of OSPI, basically, and there's about 79% of the teachers in the state are white. Right. And so where, in the Seattle area, 55% of the students are students of color. So what we want to do is make sure that there's opportunities out there for community-based organizations to do professional development, training, and to really help influence our educators of color, people of color that look like you and I, Black males, to go into education. And really, again, the data speaks for itself. When the teachers, students of color are more successful, you see decreased suspension rates, you see increased opportunities for advanced placements, students being placed in advanced courses, and there's so many positive data attributes to on-time graduation, to attending more likely to go to college. And so that's what we want to do with this other investment, is to make sure that the same thing that CBOs out there can apply up to $150,000 to help meet those goals. And what's going through my mind right now is that I was watching a show a couple of days ago, and I saw Brother Kyle on here, Devonair, right? Opened up his shop down in Pike Place, and just hearing him speak and just knowing, like, how do we make sure that we have educators like Kyle? Because Kyle used to be a teacher. I don't know if he mentioned in his thing, and then he aspired to open up his shop that's doing great down there. And so that's just what I think about. How do we make sure we have folks like that, folks like you in front of our kids, to aspire them to do whatever it is they choose to?
I'm going to tell you this much. So it's a few things, right? Is one, I'm a history buff. So I don't know if Washington State history is still taught in the 9th grade with the Green Book, but wherever it's taught, you know what I'm saying? I have no problem popping into classrooms over here, you know what I'm saying, and popping into the Washington State history class. But man, anything, I'm so sincere about this. Anything that I can do, I know Trey agrees, and some of these man, everybody who works here, anything that we can do to be present. There's only two type of people that I'll drop everything for. That's our young people and our elders. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, I'll cancel all meetings, whatever, to show up for our young people and for our cherished community elders. So anyway, anything we can do, we need to be in the school. You just tell us where to be. Tell us what program to be at. Tell us how to, you know what I'm saying? We'll be present and we'll be ready and everything else. Let's boost them numbers up. So then the numbers like, okay, well, man, here's the teachers right here in the classroom, and here's our community support. You know what I'm saying? Man, I would love the opportunity to be able to, to, in whatever I can do. You didn't even go chaperone, be on a field trip or something. Y'all call me.
I will, definitely. Thank you for that. And this right here, what you're doing is I mean, it's unquantifiable right now. This is a huge blessing. You letting us use your social media platform to get this word out. I mean, that says enough right there. So I thank you for that, and I just continue to appreciate everything that you're doing. You're doing some great work here, but that's what I want to do. I want to make sure that these next scholars, whether they graduate from Garfield, Ballard, Beach, that look like us, people are BIPOC students, that they can become the next Converge Media. They can do what it is, and you're the prime example of why I'm excited about this.
Yeah, and the best thing is I'm gonna tell them that if they trying to be the next Converge, they shooting too low. They need to be the next Comcast, Xfinity on a platform. So you know what I'm saying? Satellites and I'm gonna shoot them the real game. I'm gonna be like, yeah, we cool, but you the next generation, you got to shoot for the stars. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, but I know we got one more thing to talk about. And before we do, I want you to, if you can, please recap these two programs.
Yes. So we have two requests for investments out. We have one around culture education and student leadership. And we have another one that's around educator diversity. Please go to the website, www.seattle.org/DEEL, and look and see and apply. I guarantee that you'll enjoy what you see out there, and it'll be something worthwhile to support our scholars. So those are the two things that we have happening right now. And the dates, one ends May 26th, and I believe one ends May 13th. I will double check those dates just to make sure.
Yeah, well, either way, that means y'all got to shake a leg out there, man. You know what I'm saying? Let's and well, me and Trayon here will figure out a way as well to amplify. This is really important. You know, Trey, you plugged like a lot of these organizations that could probably facilitate some of these things. You're already plugged into, huh? Yeah, no, it's a good stuff. Before we let you go, I see that you guys you've also put out a comic book.
Yes, we did. So in partnership with Public Health, Seattle Public Health, King County. Oh man, there's a comic book out right now, ultimately just helping families educate their kids about vaccination and COVID and everything. And we're super excited about this comic book. And we encourage all families to check it out and help read it to you, or not help, but read it to your kid, look at it. And it's interesting. Part of the comic book is talking about a shot. And what resonated with me, my 6-year-old, man, when we went to go get our vaccinations, oh my, I had to hold her down, buckle her down. And even when we went to get the booster, I mean, she's already, and and so I'm saying that to say that I know when I read this comic book to my child, it's going to more than likely make a difference. But it's some good stuff.
Right. I think that in looking through it, it's available there at the DEEL website, right?
It is. It's on our website as well.
Right. One thing, and looking at it, is that Public Health Seattle King County has earned the trust of people in our community, and this is well before COVID. And I think they've reinforced that through COVID. But it's because community trust public health that partnering with them to create this comic book that allows somebody, but especially young people, if you can tell them in advance and set some kind of expectation, they definitely respond better. I think that's probably one of the things this comic book was designed to do, right?
Yes, it was. It was designed to do that, to help our young people respond better to it. And you're absolutely right. Public Health Seattle King County has been an amazing partner. A partner of ours, we actually partnered with Seattle Public Health King County back in the first education levy in 1990, and started partnering with them. We have teen health clinic centers in all of our high schools here in Seattle. that's supported and ran by a partner with Public Health King County. So they've been an amazing partner.
Oh man, that's dope. Good stuff. Excuse me. Director, Dr. Dwane Chappelle. Man, it's always a pleasure, brother.
Thank you. And I appreciate you. Appreciate what you're doing for us in the community. So thanks for the support.
Just tell you, bring your mic up.
Thank you. Yeah, what I was saying was thank you. Appreciate what you've done with this, building this right here, building this platform for our Black community and our communities of color to really just see the great work that's happening out there. And I just admire what you do. And we're going to keep leveraging your platform to share this great work that we're doing.
That's right, man. Anything for these young people. Let me get camera somehow. Big old love to kids. So anything for our young people, man, you know, we with it. We're going to take a quick break right now. When we come back, Trey Holiday returns to the set. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
When COVID first hit, I was very afraid. There was so much things that I had to keep inside because I didn't know where to place my feelings. Most of my information for COVID is from my own research. I'm a doctor in educational leadership. And when the FDA approved Pfizer, it helped me realize that the vaccination is healthy. We don't want to be left behind because we're not taking the vaccine, but we want to get as much information as possible so that we are putting ourselves in better hands and not at great risk.
The breathtaking new musical, Afterwards, is the story of the art we make from the love that shapes us. When three women discover unexpected truths, a dazzling mosaic of intersecting lives reveals itself. Featuring a revelatory and soulful new score. Don't miss the world premiere of this captivating new musical, Afterwards, at the Fifth Avenue Theater, April 29th to May 21st. Tickets at fifthavenue.org.
Hey guys, Besa Gordon here, and before heading to Belize, Trey Holiday and I had to make sure we linked up with our good friends over at Market Street Shoes to, of course, grab a few things for the trip. From bags to socks, shoes, sunglasses, earrings, and more. Before going on any trip, make sure you stop at Market Street Shoes. Trust me, you'll find just what you need to make your trip not only enjoyable, but fashionable.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. Welcoming Trey Holiday back to the set. Man, Director Chappelle, you know, it's always some good news in the studio.
Absolutely it is. And, you know, this is the thing. We talk about this all the time in terms of how can, you know, agencies truly support our families and our children. I just really appreciate the intentionality that DEEL brings because they are really doing that work in a tremendous way.
Yeah, I think one thing, well, there we go. Good stuff. I think that one thing that that I like to hear with this investment with DEEL is that, like I said, oftentimes we talk about investment and intervention, right? And, you know, clearly investment and intervention is important. We need to disrupt what's happening out there in real time on the streets. And there isn't a lot of talk or equal funding a lot of times for prevention. And when we invest in our young people at a young age, when we invest them and then we're here to support them through all the steps of the way, that's also prevention, you know? And you know, it doesn't ever get heralded enough of the people who are committed to prevention, the people when we say are upstream, right? So yes, this is 100% a pure education type thing, investment in education, what people should do, but we know the realities out there on the street. And this is also an investment in prevention. This is also an investment in showing young people what else is out there. I remember as a kid, I was fortunate enough to move around, kind of see some things, but my mama, I remember it was a group of us. We took a bus from the Central District to Hurricane Ridge out there in the Olympic Peninsula. And for almost everybody on the bus, that was their first time ever leaving the city of Seattle. And to go over there, it took a ferry and went up to Hurricane Ridge, and it was transformational. Just that right there. That didn't involve a traditional classroom, right? But showing somebody what's out there, what's possible. You know what I'm saying? Other things beyond what they're used to seeing on the everyday. Look, even when we went to Belize, 6 people who traveled with us, they that was their first passport.
Yeah.
4 of them had never left the city before,
Yeah.
but they went to Belize. And look, they're going back. They're like, oh yeah, I'm going back. So it's important that, man, we invest in education, and it's a dual track, and we'll find that investment pays twofold, is that we have supported, thriving, educated young people, and we're also and bolstering the prevention path here, and keeping our young people focused on life and on living.
I agree 100%. Oh, I think so much of this discussion and the conversation around how educational institutions can really do this work. This is one of those ways. Exposure is so key. I mean, we just heard it yesterday from even Monica Matthews was talking about how, look, I had to create the things that I didn't have as a young person, right? And it's so true that when you have young people exposed to different things, particularly when it's like, man, I can see myself in that thing. I can see myself as you know, Director Chappelle was just talking about here, you know, what Converge Media is doing is a great example of that. And, you know, as a mother of 2 young sons, I'm always like, how can I expose you to certain things? Maybe you won't like it, but you won't know until you try it, right? You won't even know until you're in that environment. And so, you know, that for me is something that I have seen the transformation, even in just how my sons respond to that. I agree.
Yeah, and I'll say this. I know we got to move on, but, you know, every time I talk to Director Hersey, who's now school board as the president of the school board, and he talks about issues out there at the school, and I tell him, what are you doing to challenge the parents?
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing to challenge community? You know, our parents can't just show up when there's a suspension notice. Our parents can't just show up because they don't like the, you know, the hours or the change on the bus. They've never looked at the homework. They never looked at the syllabus. They never been to a parent-teacher meeting. And now you can do it. My mama used to ride the bus 48, you know what I'm saying, to make it to them PTA meetings, and now you can do it on Zoom. And so when we put the investment in bolstering our community, you know, it also creates an opportunity for us to challenge our community members to be part and parcel of the education of our youth. My mama said she'd been a fool to think that just sending the kids to school was going to educate your kid. Like,
Yeah.
we have to have our parents and our community members involved in the process. And let's be clear, I understand that some of our parents in our community, they're not in a position. They're not in that space right now where they can offer uplift and be involved in everything else. And that's where people like us, you know, and community as a whole, we have to find ways to bridge that gap and let our young people know that they're loved and that they're cared about.
Agreed, 100%. Last thing I'll say on this is I'm seeing this take shape in federal way, right? I was just attending a school board meeting a couple months ago. And, you know, one of the things that I said there is, you know, the accessibility of these things. There's a lot of families who cannot afford the luxury of participating. So my presence and me bringing my son there, who was the only young person to speak to that entire school board, they heard his story, right? They reached out to us. They were intentional about making sure that they understood the details of his story and the details of our experience. And that was nothing more than just an example of what so many Black students are dealing with in the federal way public school system. So much of us that can be there and be present, it's important that we do show up. We're showing up for a wide variety of families who do not have the luxury to do so.
Yeah, these are our community members, and we should never forget. And, you know, and I would say this, is we get a lot of elders who watch the show, and they got to understand. They were like, well, man, you know, I used to be there every day, and I was this and that. And, you know, we've got a generation of parents here who, man, it's different circumstances. And the best thing that we could do is acknowledge that. And we need to love our community members. We need to see it. We need to be real about where they're at and what they can do. And we need to love our community members and our community enough that we make the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna pop in right now. We got an update from Brian Callanan, Seattle News, Views, and Brews, of course, which airs tonight at 7 p.m. And here's a preview.
Hey guys, sorry I can't join you in person, but I did want to make sure I updated people on what's happening on Seattle News, Views, and Brews, and also something you'll want to keep an eye on with the Seattle City Council later on this week. So we're talking about a number of things on the show. David Croman and I, David Croman from the Seattle Times, we're talking about this big issue that is in front of the Seattle City Council right now, how to retain more police officers, how to attract police officers to the SPD. As you have seen, and we're talking about it on the program, there have been competing plans in between Councilmember Lisa Herbold and Councilmember Sarah Nelson. So we're talking about those different things. Are there some needs for relocation bonuses for officers? Is there a need for hiring bonuses for officers? How effective are those hiring bonuses really in terms of keeping officers with the department or even attracting them on? The mayor, since we recorded the podcast, has actually figured out a bit of a truce between these two council members who have competing measures here. So we will see how that one pans out. But I also wanted to pass along, there is something that's on the docket with the council over the next couple of weeks here, dealing with the pay up legislation. I've been talking about this on the podcast with David over the past couple of weeks here. So these are people like DoorDash, people who work for care.com, Rover, things like that. The city council is trying to put together some different regulations that would allow these people to get a minimum wage and also some other protections on their jobs. So a lot of pushback from the different industries like the executives from DoorDash, et cetera, which you might expect. But we're going to be watching this over the next couple of weeks. And in talking with David about this, we're really talking about how this industry is really changing. The gig worker industry, it's changing very quickly. The city council is doing its best to catch up with it. And finally, I just wanted to make sure that people had it on their radar. This afternoon at 2 o'clock, the city council, the land use committee, is actually working on a comprehensive plan update. Now, this is going on for a long, long time, but this is basically how our city is going to grow over the next 20 years. They're saying that race and social justice is at the center of this process. We'll really see how that looks, but we're talking about potential changes for neighborhoods that were traditionally single family homes. Well, we're going to see some changes there. So a lot happening with that with this meeting this afternoon at 2 o'clock. Make sure you're checking that out. And of course, make sure you're checking out Seattle News, Views, and Brews right here on Converge, 7 o'clock on Wednesdays, I should say. Thanks, guys.
Brian Callanan there. Yeah, 7 o'clock tonight. It looks like it's going to be a great show. You know, that land use, that's a big thing. You know, the last time the city made a plan, it looked like black people wasn't included in the plan. I think Africatown came up with their version of Seattle 2035. And you're talking about land use now for the next 20 years.
Yeah, this is huge. I mean, I think there's been some real connection to community because it was an outpour. Shout out to Africatown Community Land Trust for really leading some of that discussion and saying, wait a minute, something has to be done here. But not enough community members and organizations were involved. And so they started to open it up, and they have been having some intentional meetings in community, bringing people back to the table. I know I participated in some of that to really showcase, like, what does it look like to make sure that in 20 years, we're talking about really reflecting the diversity of the city. We saw that it wasn't happening before. And now, when we have community-led development projects happening in our city, we're seeing it in all different areas of the city, which is phenomenal because it's necessary. And they're realizing the city doesn't have all the answers and they can't do all of this work. And so they've really partnered with community-based organizations to do this work. Shout out to the Equitable Development Initiative for being a real resource to these development projects, oftentimes being the first funding source which allows a lot of these community development projects to thrive and to be built. So you're right. There's a lot being done in this.
Yeah, this is going to be a heated debate because, what a lot of people are saying is a lot of legacy neighborhood. Our neighborhood, by the way, is a legacy neighborhood, which goes back 140 years before Washington was even a state. But I should say a lot of more affluent legacy neighborhoods, they're not for the rezoning. They're not for more density and everything else. I'll be honest with you, in the Central District, we weren't for that either, and basically we got pushed out and it's doing it anyway. And so, you've got a lot of legacy neighborhoods here that are still intact, right? And, rezoning and zoning, I think, is going to be a big issue here. I'm glad Brian brought that up. That's something we're following.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I want to say too that we've been talking about this policing issue. Somebody sent me this today, and I just want to just touch on it really quickly because the Department of Justice is now launching law enforcement knowledge labs. And really basically what these are is they're opportunities for law enforcement agencies to learn about best practices in terms of community policing, what it looks like to build relationships with community, what it looks like to repair trust from different harm that has really transpired in a lot of different communities across the country. This is a federal initiative that they are pushing, but I think it's really interesting because when we keep talking about the type of officer, right, we also talk about the fact that there's a lot of training, a lot of resources out there, but it's about if people and agencies choose to use them. Again, this is not something that's going to be enforced, but it just offers an opportunity for officers to learn about best practices. For me, it's all about, hey, are they going to actually choose to use this? It's voluntary, yo.
We'll see. I remember when Meyerberg was still over at OPA, and one time I interviewed him, he said he had sent like 85 policy change recommendations over to SPD. And I think they, they like took a handful, if any. So you're right. It's going to be up to them. Man, getting out of here. I'm getting out of here on time today. Before we go, it looks like me and you, we're going on a date, right?
Yeah, I'm so looking forward to this Marriage of Figaro. There it is right there. Norman Garrett was here. And let me tell you, he was nice and sharp, but he said that ain't nothing compared to the costumes he's going to be wearing on stage at the opera. Looking forward to that on Sunday.
Yeah, so I'm going to put the link there in the comments. The Marriage of Figaro. Man, I wasn't here that day. That brother was sharp.
Yeah, super sharp. And what I was thinking was, what's up with the height of these opera singers, man? He was tall. Joshua Conyers was super tall. I'm like, man.
And even what you call you were still in Virgin Island when Daniel Cruz was here. The ballet dancer, Daniel Cruz. I was like, oh yeah, it's ballet. This and that. Bro was like, where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at? Where? So yeah, we're gonna have a good time at the Seattle Opera on Sunday. And there's nobody else I'd rather be going to the opera with than you. Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining me. It's gonna be a fun show.
All right, we're gonna get out of here, Trey Holiday. No overtime today. It's on time. Any last words?
Always, for me, see yourself as a part of the solution. Clearly, director Dwane Chappelle was here telling us about how he's doing it at DEEL. You guys got to be inspired by the guests that we bring here. We always are encouraging you to be a part of the solution out there. It's necessary.
Yeah, and I would say this is that, man, let's remember that to love our community and love our community members. And we got people in our community at all phases and stages in life, and it's real easy for us to discard our community members, especially the ones that are struggling. And man, let's just remember to keep some space in our heart, you know what I'm saying, and some grace in our spirit for our community members and these young people that are out there, because you know what? Ain't nobody coming to save us. People can offer tools, and that's one of the things that the DEEL is doing. But you know what? For us to save ourselves, that's where it's at. And that's going to start with us loving each other and loving our community. On that note, we'll send you off here with a little bit of hope from Shayna Shepherd. Want to remind you, go forward in your purpose. Go forward in your humanity. And until tomorrow at 11 a.m., peace.
What do I see through a lens of fear? 1,000 little steps to go. What do I fear after all these years? Lord knows I don't even know. I've been running on the edge of a sundial, sleeping in the shadow. I've been begging you to see me, then hiding beyond the unreachable. Looking out left on a right-hand turn, just trying to make a deal. Lazy shoes and love is a love that's earned. That's the kind of food that heals. I've been searching for the end of an era, waiting to be ready. The world is bigger than a moment. and you can feel it's real, but I feel naked in my new clothes. 'Cause I got used to hiding the holes. This whole world got new tricks and I'm in the thick of it. This I swear I'm already sick of it. At least I found the antidote. Oh, I know no one is a shadow. 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 No one is a shadow. But I feel naked in my new clothes. 'Cause I got used to